Halyna Gutierrez read the armor from Rust might be sent free. What? I got Nate the lawyer here. We got to break this down. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signore. So excited to have Nate the lawyer in the building. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I haven't seen you in a while. What's been going on?
It's, man, where things are always up and down, crazy, but now we're covering. I got to get you back. In fact, I'd love to do another one where we talk Trump, because I want to rack your brain on that, because my gosh, what's happening there is crazy. But speaking of crazy, since I got you here for this, I wanted to get your opinions. Wasn't paying attention, but I forgot you were actually in a case against this woman, Morrissey, right? She was actually, we're going to break this whole down. We're going to get that backstory in as well. But I want to get your reaction to this shocking finale of a case. I have not seen one like it in a while, which now could prompt Halyna Gutierrez Reed, who was sentenced to 18 months for the death of Halyna Hutchins, for being, putting that round in the pistol without properly checking it. Alec's case has now been dismissed in a shocking finale, and how the prosecutor's actions are now potentially prompting Halyna Gutierrez to be released. Her lawyers today are asking to be dismissed or at least a new trial after Alec's case was dismissed mid-trial. In court documents filed yesterday, actually, obtained by People, Gutierrez Reed's attorneys sent a motion to the court asking for the armor to either receive a new trial or have her conviction dismissed in the wake of an egregious discovery violation by New Mexico's special prosecutors. As we know, there was all this talk and proof of the special prosecutor sort of putting separate things on separate case numbers, etc. It did look pretty fishy. I was frustrated because I still was like, well, how does this have anything to do with him pulling the trigger? It doesn't kind of matter where it came from in Alec Baldwin's case to me, but I'm curious where you stand on this. So let's start with Halyna Gutierrez Reed. Are you surprised to see this? And do you think her lawyers have a shot at using this pandemonium and craziness from the Alec case to actually get her released?
To be honest, I don't think she has a shot, but my opinion can change with more evidence. The reason why I don't think that she has a shot is because in Alec Baldwin's situation, the new evidence, or the evidence, was before his trial began. So that evidence was turned over by Teskey. I think his name is Troy Teskey, after Halyna Gutierrez Reed's trial, but before Alec Baldwin's trial. And that's was supposed to be turned over to Alec Baldwin's defense team. And Halyna Gutierrez Reed, the trial was over. She was convicted and sentenced. So this new evidence wasn't available during her trial. So I understand why her defense counsel, which if I was her counsel, I would have filed that same motion too. But I don't think it's going to be relevant in her case, because if they didn't have the evidence at that time, then they couldn't turn it over to Halyna Gutierrez Reed. So I don't really see how she can get a new trial or even her conviction overturned based on these Alec Baldwin developments. Now, if that evidence was available or had been turned over to the prosecutors during her trial, or even before her trial, then maybe she would have an argument. But at this point in time, I don't think she really has a firm argument. I think she's going to be, unfortunately, stay in jail. Now, maybe she can ask for the judge to maybe look at it again and change her sentence, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think unfortunately, the timing doesn't work for her. For Alec Baldwin, the timing worked tremendously well. But for her, she's just out of luck, it seems like.
Well, you brought in a good point, because it's something we haven't really talked about, which was just, again, the masterful lawyering by Spiro there, where the timing of when he brought all this in, right? Because if that had come out before trial, before the jury was selected, he would have still had to face the consequences. But by waiting and doing it on the stand the way he did, it was pretty brilliant to sort of throw it in the prosecutor's face. And obviously at that point, jury's sworn in, et cetera. Do you think without or with prejudice, dismissal was warranted and justified?
Well, let's just be clear. This was a technicality, right? So Alec Baldwin, I don't think is innocent. He wasn't declared innocent. But this technicality is simply that there was evidence that could have been helpful to Alec Baldwin's position. His position was essentially he was set up, right? Somebody put live ammo in a gun and no one knew where the ammo came from. So if you can make the argument that, hey, this live ammo came from, I believe it was not Dave Halls, but the other, the guy who Steph Kinney, he's the person who provided all the props to the set. If you could prove that that's where it came from, then it may relieve Alec of some culpability, right? Because it's like, I am being reasonable. There wasn't supposed to be any live rounds on the set. the prop master was giving us all these guns and all these rounds, said there were no live rounds in this, and we got it from him. So that shows less, it makes Alec less culpable in that situation. It doesn't prove that he didn't do it. It just makes him less culpable. And under those circumstances where you have this evidence that directly kind of points in one direction, then it's appropriate for the district attorney to turn it over. Now, I hear a lot of people saying, well, that bullets or those bullets wouldn't really change anything in Alec Baldwin's case, but that's not the point. The point
Right.
is that you turn it over and let the defense do whatever they're going to do with it. If they're going to use it, the defense may not have even used that evidence, but the fact that it was available to the prosecutor and that they didn't turn it over is the violation. And it's a very technical one, but I think unanimously all lawyers across the country will say this was the right decision, because this was really a simple thing to do, but this had a lot of negative consequences. It's simple. You turn it over and they say, oh, these weren't the same bullets. But the fact that you put it under a different case number, you knew about it. The crime scene tech got on the stand and lied about it, said, hey, we never saw the bullets. But then next thing you know, she says, oh, well, we did see the bullets. All of that gets you to this ball of wax where it says, okay, well, unfortunately, we have to dismiss this case because the prosecutors willfully withheld evidence that seemingly didn't matter, but it did.
Well, that's where I'm at, because and she's on screen, this Morrissey woman who, as Christopher Melcher did say, like, this is a smaller department. She was going up against high-powered, very talented, expensive lawyers. She did not have the same amount of resources. And I do believe had a case against Alec. That's what's so frustrating, because you said it. He's not innocent here. This is not what happened. He's not declared innocent. This is just a technicality. And it's frustrating to me because I feel both Alec and Hannah are responsible. I don't think they did it on purpose, but their, errors on set are why we lost Halyna Hutchins. And it's just a tragedy. And it's frustrating me that he's going to get this win and not take any accountability. And that's where I'm worried, because this, she does, I agree. I don't think it was like that off base. In fact, the Santa Fe DA is affirming the support and then trying to say, she didn't do this intentionally and yada, yada. But it's hard to not see that this was such a massive error, bad organization. And like you said, seeming cover up, there was a bit of, which I understand the moment and why the judge did what she did. But you still don't believe that potential cover up, this sort of conspiracy theory, doesn't put some doubt into Hannah's case at this point. There's nothing you see legally there that should give pause to say she's going to get out of there.
Well, if, in thinking out this hypothetical, let's say Troy Teskey, who turned over these bullets and said these bullets may be from the same batch that the bullet that killed Halyna Hutchins is from. Let's say that's true. And those bullets were found before Hannah Gutierrez's trial started and it wasn't turned over, it was put under a different case number like Alec. I think, yes, she files that motion and she has a very good chance because she's in the same position that Alec Baldwin is in. But the fact of the matter is her trial was done and completed. And then this evidence came in. So I don't really think she has that argument, unless this evidence showed that she was just totally innocent, which it doesn't, right? She actually loaded the gun. She handed the gun to Alex. She didn't check it to see if these bullets were live. So I think that doesn't change any of those facts. So unless this evidence would again, if this evidence was if presented to a court, the court would say, well, with this evidence, it could prove that she's not culpable or she's innocent in some way. Yes, she has a shot. But I don't think any of this evidence, unfortunately, shows that for Hannah Gutierrez either. I think she's unfortunately going to have to stick with the sentence that she has.
Fascinating. I mean, I think that's for the best, but so we'll see. It's a very good point. If the timeline is that way, then yes, I understand where you're coming from. It's another technicality, and sorry, this didn't affect your case. The reason this was thrown out for Alec was because it was mid-case. Your case was already finished. I do want to ask you more about the fact that you were up against Miss Morrissey as well, right? You defended someone online who they were trying to come after and get their sources, which is super crazy. What was that experience like, and how does it feel watching her sort of have the case sunk? Was there any sort of joy in that in a way, or what do you? Because again,
no, there wasn't any joy in that.
But just like that moment of Spiro on getting the prosecution on the stand. You know what I mean? Like, as a lawyer, you must have dreamed of moments where you could put the other side on the stand under oath and just grill them. With all the experience and you going against Morrissey, what was that like to watch for you?
Well, it was interesting because my experience with Morrissey was a little different than I think she was on the stand, because obviously it's a different context. But yes, no, the prosecutor taking a stand, because obviously that was a desperate attempt to save her case, right? You'll never see a prosecutor on the stand unless they're trying to save their case. Same thing happened in Atlanta with Fannie Willis. Fannie Willis jumped on the stand. She wasn't called. She jumped on the stand because she saw her case tanking and she wanted to save her case. Sometimes it works. It worked for Fannie Willis. She's still on the case, but it didn't work for this prosecutor who tried to pull a Fannie Willis. Just didn't work for her. But my own dealings with Morrison is that, so Eric Hunley, you guys should know from the Eric Hunley channel here on YouTube. He's a close personal friend of mine. He's a journalist and he has all the information on the Rush tragedy. He has been investigating this from the beginning, and he has contacts. For instance, Seth Kinney is going to come on his channel. Seth Kinney, the person who supplied the guns, the props, and all the stuff for that set, knows Eric and has been talking to Eric behind the scenes. And there are a whole bunch of other people. Matter of fact, if I was to tell you who, we would all be shocked. But there's a whole bunch of other contacts that he has behind the scenes. So he's obviously getting information and aggregating it so he can report on it on his channel, Eric Hunley, here on YouTube. But the fact of the matter is that he had gotten some information from multiple sources about certain things, and Morrissey heard about it. So Morrissey called and was threatening Eric that she was going to drag him into New Mexico from where he's at across the country and force him to testify against Alec Baldwin. So Eric engaged me to be his attorney, and we went in a meeting with Morrissey. Now, in that meeting, she yelled at us, screamed at us, was threatening us. But, I personally told her, we're not giving you anything because he's a journalist and he's going to protect the sources. Subpoenas don't really travel well from New Mexico to the East Coast. And last but not least, I treat prosecutors like mushrooms. I feed them crap and keep them in the dark, unless you can force my client to give up something. So she was very upset at us. And, I told her, send us the paperwork, send us the subpoena, and we'll see you in court. We called her bluff. She didn't send the subpoena, but she was very animated. She was, because from our perspective, it seemed like she really wanted to get Alec Baldwin, and she believed that if she put pressure on Eric to give up his sources, that he would do it because, generally YouTube commentators like us, we don't have lawyers just on retainer like that, right? If a prosecutor comes and says, we're going to put you in jail and subpoena you if you don't tell us what to do. But Eric did have a lawyer who was me, and that's when I was able to come in and say, no, pump the brakes. You can, if you're going to put all this stuff out there, we're going to make you put it on paper and come to court and do it where Eric is at. And, obviously we called her bluff and she didn't call her bluff. So that was my experience with her. But in watching her performance in court, it was very, very similar. She seemed a little erratic, but I, like you, believe she did have a good case at the beginning. I think her case was pretty solid. But obviously you can see this is a very small department. This is New Mexico. This is Santa Fe. It's not like you're in New York or Los Angeles. And I think, that being said, this special prosecutor, they were trying to do so much that they forgot the simple stuff. And the most simplest thing a prosecutor can do, just turn over everything. I remember my files, I didn't even essentially just look to make sure there was nothing personal in it, but you send everything. And why? It's because you don't want something like this to happen when you say this one little piece of evidence, like these are 4 bullets that didn't have anything to do with the Rush set, now has his case dismissed forever. That is something that you don't want to see. Now, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, I'm assuming her attorneys are looking through every piece of evidence and everything and saying, hey, is there anything that they didn't turn over?
Yeah.
Because they can do it to Alec Baldwin, who's a big name and who's got millionaire attorneys. They can do it to Hannah Gutierrez, who doesn't have those type of resources. So we'll see. But right now, based on what I'm seeing, I don't think she's got a shot. I think I as a lawyer, I would make the argument, but I don't think she has a shot.
Yeah, I hope she doesn't, because she does bear responsibility, and I think Alec did too. It's kind of crazy that it's not murder. They're not getting away with murder technically, right? Getting away with homicide, is that the right word?
Manslaughter. So see, homicide is any death, right, by unnatural means, and then manslaughter.
But murder is with intent, and I don't think
murder is you got to want to kill the person.
Yeah, and I don't think they didn't want that, but they're clearly getting away with a death that they're responsible for. You would agree, right? I mean, Hannah's got convicted, but do you still hold responsibility for Alec? Because I just, no matter what, the fact that these were clear bozos on this set. You knew it from day one, and it was amazing that they got the producer sort of credit away from things. But I don't know how she was able to do that. He was a producer actor. He knew that these idiots were there. He knew that crew had left early, that they were worried about safety violations. There was a lot there that was easily should have been red flags to be like, yo, show me this. And then there's talk of really who did hand the gun. Was it Dave Halls? Was it her? It's still sometimes he told both versions of that to different interviews. So, I mean, do you agree with me, or do you disagree that Alec does bear responsibility for not properly checking that firearm before he pulled the trigger?
Well, but I kind of can see it in both ways. And to be fair, if I was on the jury, I probably would be a not guilty verdict vote versus guilty, because there were a lot of hands in this thing. And first, Dave Hall. Dave Hall was the supervisor of Hannah Gutierrez Reed. He's supposed to check the gun. He actually pleaded guilty to a lesser charge because of what he did. So he pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor. Then Hannah Gutierrez Reed, who actually loaded the gun, it was literally her job to check the bullets to make sure this was a cold gun and all that stuff. She checked it and she said it was cold. Now, I think Alec Baldwin's problems comes in his police interview. He said Hannah Gutierrez Reed gave her the gun. In this particular trial, when I watched it, he said he didn't say it came out that Hannah Gutierrez Reed was the one that handed him the gun. And when she handed them the gun in the police
just
interview,
to clear up to Stephanopoulos, he said it was Dave Halls, but continue.
Yes. But in the police interview and at this trial, it was Hannah Gutierrez Reed. So it may, but again, that's why you don't talk to ABC News, right? Because it bites you in the behind, right? Yeah. These inconsistent statements. But he talked, and now we know it wasn't Dave Hall, it was Hannah Gutierrez Reed. Even in that, though, when she handed him the gun, he says in his police interview that when she handed him the gun, she said, "Check it," and he said no, he didn't want to check it because it would offend her. So he said that in a police interview. I thought that was a damning piece of evidence for Alec Baldwin, because at that point in time, you're put on notice. Hey, check this to make sure it's safe. And he says no. But on the other hand,
I never heard that. That is massively damning.
Yes, it is massively damning.
Wasn't that the only thing that the prosecutor just dropped him, like, case over?
No, what they had actually gotten that in the day before. They had gotten in all those previous statements from Alec Baldwin from the police and all that stuff, which again was very damning because he's speaking to the police without a lawyer. So that statement itself was damning. But the saving grace for Alec Baldwin is the fact that this is a movie set. They are playing pretend, right? You do things on a movie set that you don't do in real life. I point a gun at someone on a movie set because we all know it's pretend, it's fake, and everything is safe. Versus in real life, if I'm pointing a gun at you, there are different rules, right? There's a context to it. So the argument here, and the overall argument in this trial is the context on the movie set the same context in real life? Is Nate the lawyer at his home, who has a gun, who may believe it's empty, pointing at someone, and this same thing happens? Is that the same as Nate the lawyer, the actor, on a movie set, where you have an armorer and an AD all checking the gun, telling you it's cold, and then you point the gun at someone and it goes off? So that context really was going to determine his guilt or innocence. And if jurors believe that the movie set should be treated just like real life, then he was going to jail. If they believe that this context was different, I think he was going to be found not guilty. So I do think if you really look at the fact, this is a really fact-dependent case, I think he could go either way. But I do think the DA had a strong case, because that piece of evidence of him saying, I don't want to check it because I don't want to offend you, that then would leave someone to say, well, he was given the opportunity to check it. If he would have checked it, would she be alive today? And then that would lead you to an involuntary manslaughter. But I would also say one thing, too, that did come out in the trial, is that the bullets in the gun, there was no way to distinguish the live rounds from the dummy rounds. So let's say Alec did check the gun and looked at the gun and saw there were rounds in there. He wouldn't have been able to tell if they were live rounds or dummy rounds. Matter of fact, they said only the experts actually can tell. So I think that was also a saving grace for Alec, because even if he checks the gun, if he can't tell the difference between live and dummy rounds, then what good would have had done? He would have pointed the gun anyway and done exactly what they said. So there's a lot of twists and turns, but at the end of the day, I think there was enough to say Alec Baldwin was not guilty of this crime. But again, that's why you have trials, to see if you can convince a jury of your peers whether you're guilty or not.
All very good thoughts. I didn't know about that piece. That's damning. Nate always brings it. I still think he bears that some responsibility. But what do you guys think? Did he get away with it? And if you want more amazing takes like this, Nate's got the best analysis. I want to talk about this Trump assassination too, man. It's exploding. I want to hear your thoughts. So stay tuned. We'll try to get him back on that. So make sure you subscribe over there. Subscribe over here if you haven't already. Hit the bells for all alerts on our subscribe button so you get those alerts. Smash the like button when you get over here. Leave a comment. Help the engagement. Appreciate all you guys watching. Tell me your thoughts down below. Did Alec Baldwin get away with Killing? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Appreciate all you guys so much. Stay tuned for more.